Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, I'm working out in the PSGF. Welcome to winter, everyone. It is the 22nd of December, and winter officially kicked in last night about 8:47, 9:27. I had mixed information, but some were around last evening when I debuted the 2023 year in review. Check that out on the playlist. What a fun time chatting with some bonsai enthusiasts on the YouTube. It was fantastic. So today is the first full day of winter, though it doesn't look like it outside very much, does it? Not in Minnesota anyway. I hope you're safe and sound in your neck of the woods as the holidays here are with us for sure. So what am I going to do in the PSGF today? Well, one of the things that we talk about with young people, new people into the bonsai craft is to, well, you know, Jack Weichel kind of said it the best.
Don't limit yourself to one tree. Yeah. That's
a good one.
Biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't limit yourself to one tree. And here's why. Because if you don't have a lot of trees and you're kind of digging this hobby and you like it, you might love your tree to death. If you're like me someday, you're going to have a lot of trees. Now, if you don't limit yourself to one tree, there are certain times of the year that you can do certain things that you wouldn't be able to do, of course, if you just had one or two or even a half a dozen trees. Now, when you get over a half a dozen trees, yeah, you start to play that bonsai shuffle, which is a little bit more difficult. And depending upon the size of the tree and the space you have and what your family, your significant other perhaps, thinks about all these trees, yeah, there's a whole bunch of factors there. But if we just think about bonsai and our love for the craft and wanting to dig in and get our hands dirty, you might want to get a couple extra trees. So head to the nurseries, buy some cheap discount stock, and cut them up and experiment. That's what I've been doing for 7-8 years, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a ton. So today, we are going to go to the workstation in the PSGF, and we are going to work on a couple of tropical trees. Now, tropical trees, and it's December? Okay, well, remember, I'm going to put these trees back into the, not the cold frame, the plant room in my basement, where they're going to have nice warm temperatures and humidity, and I even can put a little extra heat below the tray to get those roots loving life. But we're going to work in the PSGF because though it's December the 22nd, it is just really balmy out. We're talking about highs in the upper 40s today. We're looking at upper 40s tomorrow and 50s on Christmas Eve with rain. They're predicting over an inch of rain on Christmas Eve. It's a little bizarre. We've been there before, but this is definitely a unique year. We're over at the workstation in the PSGF, and I wanted to show off one of the trees that I recently acquired from Candace, our friend Candace, who just was a little bit too busy in life and didn't want her trees to perish, and so she entrusted them all to me to find some homes for them in the coming year. And because I'm doing that, I have the fortunate advantage to keep a couple trees that I think are out of this world and kind of fun that I want to keep on Candace's legacy. So a couple years ago in the Minnesota Bonsai Society's fall show at the Minnesota State Fair, she brought this tree and she had a little boy off to the side with a figurine with a kite on it. The kite was out here and the wind blowing. What a phenomenal piece of art she put together here. Such a fun slab planting here. Let me go ahead and rotate it to 360 degrees for you. And we have a true wind-swept tree. This is something I've aspired to have in my collection for a long time. And I'm just tickled pink and a few other colors to have this tree. So it's come around this side right here. It's blowing right at you. Can you feel that wind blowing at you? Whew, pretty sweet, pretty cool. And then we have the back side, or is this the front? Well, we got a big scar right here, so kind of now it's been the back as far as what I've seen. And there's some nice gnarly roots there at the base of this tree, and we bring it back to what is the proposed front at the moment for me, but that other side opens up to you better because you see this big curve here going that way. So I like that side as well. Once that all heals up, we could have it either side on this tree. Now, I'm not going to work on this tree today. I did do a little bit of snipping of just a couple of the long leggy things out here the other day, and I have some things to consider for this tree. This is a great time of year to work on a few of our trees. The deciduous trees have no leaves on them anymore, and a lot of times the Chinese elms, which is what this is, people can keep them inside in their plant room, and they can go in the cold frame. So things to consider on this tree. Take a look at it and tell me what you would do in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions on this, and I'll do a 360 again to see the other side. But one of the things we want to be careful with our trees is we're getting a little close to the ground here. So in a future planting, can I lift it up a little bit? So if I lift it up a little bit in a future planting, well, then I don't have to cut away any of these branches. But maybe I want to clean up the bottom just a little bit as it is, so we might do that. There's a little tiny branch growing down here. Now these grow like weeds and shoot out all kinds of new branches, and so if I cut a lot of these off, I'm going to get new branches anyway. But there's a little branch right in here we could snip off. You can pretty much see through the tree, but if you all can see this part by my thumb, this guy right here is growing the opposite direction of the wind. The wind is blowing that way. So this little guy right here, if I can block that back there, that guy right there could probably come off, right? It's going this way. This branch right here is growing the opposite way. And then I'll go back to this other side here. And so now you can see it kind of more in front of us. And if this is the front, this is a little bit too low and this is a little bit too much in our face. So we maybe want to plant it this way more in the future because it's kind of coming out at us, right? The windswept looks this way from the other side, but it looks like it's swirling around this way, which is super cool. It's a great angle on this tree. Let me go back to the other side though. That really speaks windswept this way, right? But it's also going to the back, or in this case, this front. So do we take out some of these branches that are coming this way or wire them or manipulate them with clip and grow to go more this way? So take a look at that tree. This one's hanging a little bit down right here. See if we lift this up, we can see this branch down here. Or maybe we cut this whole branch off right here. Maybe this one just doesn't stay and we have all this coming out here and sweeping. But it all depends upon if we keep this as the front or we keep that as the front. What a fun tree though, nonetheless. I am super privileged and oh my gosh, humbled to have this tree from Candice that she put together a couple years back, and I'm excited to see the progress of this tree, and I will send her some update photos so she can see what's happened to her beautiful windswept tree. The movement in this trunk right here is just phenomenal. So what a great tree to have in my collection. I'm super excited. We're not going to work on this one today though, so let's move this one and show you what we are going to do today. So here we are, everybody, with a couple of Willow Leaf Ficus trees. Now I'm going to be able to cut these trees up and put them into a new pot, just a training pot. And part of the reason I'm doing this, it's twofold. These trees will need a little bit of recovery, and if I were to bring this to a workshop that I have with some clients, you know, a lot of people in the beginning with trees, unless they can see some potential in the trees, might not pick a tree with a big chop like this. And there is some flaws here with a big old double trunk growing right there, which is causing this bulge here. I'm going to put these into a bonsai pot, give them some bonsai soil, and give them that new life down in the plant room where they can start to recover, start to get some new roots, start to get some new growth. And then next summer, I'll be able to put these on the bench and let them just take off. And so this is that time where you have a tree also that is just outgrowing these pots. So now if I leave these in these pots any longer, they're just so stagnant. They're not growing right now. And they're such a small little pot. They're falling right out. We've got roots galore in there. We've got a big old gnarly root section with these two trees. So very bulbous roots that we can go ahead and do some cutting and trimming, flatten these things out, put them in a bonsai pot, and then let the new fresh soil and good water drainage, and I can get these things set up again for a really good year of growth. Now the sun is kind of peeking out right now, so let's go outside real quick. I wanted to show you this time of year and why the angle of the roof is the way it is, and kind of how I see the sunshine and how much I get here in the PSGF to make this a successful project. I'm just outside the PSGF, and it's the second day of winter. Yes, it's the 22nd, so the official winter solstice kicked in last night at about 8:47 or 9:27. I think I got them mixed up. But winter has arrived. But as you can tell, it's really not arrived in Minnesota. It's going to be a brown Christmas. But on the shortest day of the year, what I wanted to do is get an idea of how much sun I will get here with the solar panels and the windows for the coldest time of the year and the least amount of light of the year, which is why the angle of this roof in the PSGF is the way it is. So let's take a peek at the sun that's trying to come out through the clouds. As I turned the camera around with the tripod, the sun literally went behind the clouds after being just peeking out a tad bit up over there on the left side. So my neighbor's house, from about 9:30, the sun starts to come. There it is right there if you can see it. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but the clouds are going through a little bit past my neighbor's house, a little past 9 o'clock in the morning, and then it stays up into that clearing until it gets behind my house about 3 hours later. So typically from about 9 to noon, 9 to 1, I think, is my window. It's not a very big window, which is why I need more power as far as the solar panels to get more energy into the Blue Eddy power station. But if you're building a passive solar greenhouse in your neck of the woods, one of the things you have to consider is the tree line and the house line. So this wasn't the perfect place in my yard to put it, but really close second, because I wanted some more early sun over there in that part of my yard. But right here works because of this right here. This is the 4 hours of sunshine that I get that's going to warm up the greenhouse in the daytime and get the power to the Blue Eddy. One other quick update for you on the PSGF is I put some pink stuff on the east and west windows to, again, keep more heat in at night and also to let a little bit less light in during the day so it doesn't heat up too much. Back in the PSGF, I'm sifting away some of this soil from this Willow Leaf Ficus. Now, many of you know I'm a member of the Minnesota Bonsai Society, and one of the things we talk about on the board, and one of the things we talk about as club members, people talk about the one thing that people need more access to, and quite frankly, it's just trees. And people want to know where they can get more trees. So part of my quest with Bonsai Acres is to possibly have more trees available for people. Can I get access to trees at a relatively decent price in bulk so I can have some trees that are available for club members and people in my area that are looking for some pre-bonsai trees or trees that are in a pot maybe and started. And so thus part of my creation with Bonsai Acres. Of course, it feeds my hobby and my passion tremendously just for myself on a selfish note. But I'm hoping to get more trees. And when you do the online tree stuff and you get trees from a website, you go onto the internet and you go to any of the nurseries, and as fine as the nurseries they are, some really good trees coming from really good reputable places. But then you get a tree in a pot that has this much bulbous growth, you have no idea what you're in for. And so you don't know until you get the tree in your hand and then you have it, and it's not like you're going to return most trees. This tree has probably been in this pot for a number of years now, and you can tell just the way the roots are growing in that round pot. You know, the roots are going to go around and around and around, and that's a super small pot, and so it's just going to go around and around. These Willow Leaf Ficuses grow really a pretty good clip. They grow fast. You can get some good results pretty quick, but the roots also grow fast and they also get very bulbous. So you can see this is a really gnarly, kind of fun looking root system down here, but maybe too gnarly for some. You're gonna have a hard time getting a 360-degree radial root pattern around this structure here, the way it curls around and wraps around. But some cool stuff, and some people really like the root look, and they will be just fine with all these roots kind of being exposed. Now we can get some root planes down below, but there's a big root right in here that's kind of coming down. All that stuff's going to go, and we're going to cut about half of this off today and see what we're left with. So there's the first tree. I'm going to go ahead and get the second one out of its pot, and we're going to, I'll look at these trees in a new pot in just a few moments. I began the show talking about having a lot of trees. Now, I want to caution people for having a lot of trees. Just because you have a lot of trees doesn't mean we want to go ahead and just start working on trees because we have them. But in my case, I do have a lot of trees. I have a lot of work to do this spring. And although these would wait to a summer repot typically, I have some time this time of year to catch up on a few projects. And so with these two trees, looking in that situation where I don't think clients will like flock to them and pick them out and maybe quite see the potential of these trees like I might until we do some work with them and let them get some new growth. And again, the reason why I'm working on these trees is because I do want to set the stage for a really good future for the trees. If I left them in the trees all next year, and again, nobody picked them up from me, they're going to sit there and these bulbous roots are just going to get worse. So again, we might cut this whole root right here that's wrapped up around this one. We're going to cut that one off. We might leave some of these other ones, but we're going to cut that guy off because it's just too much. And this one's wrapped so tightly around, I doubt we'll get rid of this one because then we'd have a really weak side and a real thick side, but that might come off as well. So we're going to go ahead and do some cutting on these roots right now and kind of see what's going on down below. Now this root that is wrapping all the way around right here, I'm going to take that right off first. So I'm going to go ahead and come in here, see if I can just get the root itself. Here we go. Cut that right. There we go. And so that root coming around and hugging had all these roots down here, and yeah, we just are not going to need those for the future of this tree. Now we don't have one coming over there, and look at how much nicer already that root base looks. Now this one is a bit obnoxious. We've got this root going here and this root going here and kind of some roots developing here. There's this skinny root right here and this right in the crack of the tree here. We'll see if we keep that one, but this one's growing a really weird direction. Who knows where that one's coming from? So this is growing real nice and radial right here, and it's a little bit above this root plane, but maybe I keep it right now because we just got rid of this one right below it, and we're going to help hide that one. And we might have to cut this one a little bit deeper if we can, because it's still kind of staring us in the face. There, so I cut it a little bit more. Don't know if I can get even a little bit tighter on that one. Ooh, the fans are kicking on. All right. It's nice to have those fans kick on, though. It tells me that my PSGF is working while I'm in here. If it gets 45 degrees in here, the fans kick on automatically so they can kind of get rid of some of the warmth out this window up top. So that was really nice that it went on. We're at a good, comfortable level, 45 degrees in here. I can work in here. My hands are not too cold. We're in good shape. Okay, so we're going to cut off some of the bottom of these and kind of see where we're at with roots down here, because all these are going to come off eventually. So there we got these big gnarly roots down there, and these are the ones we have to contend with. I'm going to cut this one off right here and see where it grows. Okay, that came from over here, and that's this root in here. So if you can see, we have this big root here and we have this little root here. So for right now, if I cut it down here, we might salvage that root. We might not, but that took off that extra root right there. And so we've got this one coming around here, but that might come off in the future. And now if you can see on this tree, this root comes up from back underneath the tree, comes back up this way and this way. So if we cut it here completely, all of this root right here will come off. And I think for this tree, we're going to go ahead and do that. So again, curling up here and coming back around here. And so that comes around here in the front here. And that's a pretty big root system. But again, these roots, you can cut down and pretty much bare root a Willow Leaf Ficus, and it's going to come back and do wonderful things. So I'm doing this knowing that I can get away with this kind of big root. This one's going up. I'm going to cut this one right off. We don't want that. And again, here's that curly, gnarly root. So now let's cut it down even further. See if I can get most of this root off with that one. There we go. And so now we have this one that's curling around that we discussed earlier. And you know what? We're going to cut that one right off as well, because that one's growing up from the bottom. Right there. It's growing up from down below. So that's this curly one right here. Now I have this great big tree here, this root rather. I'm going to get this one growing up out of there. So you see this root coming down here, and this is where it went back up. So we want to cut that off even further to promote it going down. But I don't know if my my cutters here is big enough for that. So it's still a little bit more this way. We want it to be more down. There we go. So now we got kind of a nice downward facing root that way. And now we have this bulbous root that grows up around here and back over on this side and is kind of cradling this side over here. And see all that tangled mess? There was the 3 main bulbous roots, very bulbous roots, almost ginseng-like, that we can now flatten off, and we can hopefully get more roots to grow more straight down. And so you see how we have 3 roots there that can be flat on the ground now, and we have our tree. Tree number 2. Now this one's pretty grown and fused together. Don't know if we're going to be can be as aggressive with some of those root chops. Otherwise, it might make this into a complete non-tree almost looking thing, but we'll see. We'll start with the bottom root here and see where that one goes up and twists around. Twists around to right up about here. So we just took that root out. Not even a lot of fine feeder roots on that one. There's a lot of roots on this one, so we'll be able to cut off some of these roots without much problem. And kind of see what's at the bottom. And we have a lot of scraggly ones at the bottom here. I can just go ahead and cut these off, because I know we're going to cut off down here to make this plane as flat as possible. And this is a scary operation for someone who doesn't know much about bonsai yet and doesn't know much about the willow leaf ficus. So again, I'm cutting these today to hopefully set up some new growth on these trees for a really bright tomorrow for someone who's looking for a tree in about a year or 2. It'll have to grow in my backyard all of this year and recuperate and get some new roots and really get some life back to it, and then we can think about who might be the owner of this tree down the road. All right, so we got rid of a nice little chunk down there, but you see we still have all of that design. So again, that doesn't look as horrible as the other one. I don't think these are going to survive with our new design. We're just going to leave these bulk roots down here, and this will be more one of those really bulbous trees on the top. We're going to go ahead and get rid of some more of this bottom though. This is when you're into bonsai and you realize you don't have big enough tools. This is an 8-inch concave cutter, very sharp, works really good. And you need those really big root pruners to get in here and chop these up like we are right here. This concave cutter is doing the job. So we have some smaller roots in there. We're going to put this in the water as well. And you notice how much flatter that is down there. We clean this out. We can make this bottom section here just a little bit flatter, I think. And now if we don't want this root growing this way and more over that root, I can cut that one off and promote the root growing down that way like it is, right there and there. This one is just a thin root up at the top. So we have some decent roots here going out. And we're going to try to promote this now to some more straight down and out growth. There we go. So down and out, down and out, down and out. Hopefully this tree is not down and out after this procedure. Okay, we're going to wash this one off too now, and we're going to get these into some pots. So here we have our 2 trees. And again, our goal when we have these big bulbous roots is to set new paths for the roots for the future. And then we can work with those hopefully and continue to get some really nice growth. And we try to make it as flat as possible, so when you literally set this tree down on your flat surface, it's going to stand up. And it's a little bit slanted here, which is kind of a neat style. We can put this any way we want, but it is relatively flat, and we'll get some more roots growing out here. This one as well, sitting up on its own, but leaning back a little bit, kind of a neat lean this way. If we see all these roots right here in the front, that's a pretty decent front. Got a little bit of a bulbous section right there too, so we have to figure out what we're going to do. And because these trees do not have a whole lot of roots, excuse me, and for me to put wire on here, and I don't typically wire with my tropical trees anymore, we're not going to wire these into the pot. So we're going to find the front, we're going to do some trim work here. I like this side of this pot a little bit more. This root comes around this way in front of us, but it's not directly at us, and it has some nice movement there. And I like this side of the trunk a little bit better. If that's the case, we're going to go ahead and cut this branch right off here. That's right at facing us here. We got a little bit of a branch here. This one back here is growing and crisscrosses this one, so I don't know if this inside branch would stay long term. I think I will cut that one off for right now. We're going to see where this one's going to back bud with all this new root structure. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of that a little bit cleaner so it'll start to heal up, that inside branch. So I like that branch that's back there, and it'll hopefully help thicken up this section of the tree. Now this is an old branch, so we can go ahead and cut that off as well, because that's going to get rid of some of this bulbous look right here when it heals. So that's kind of an old chop point right there, and it's just a little bit bulbous there. And this branch right here is a good primary first branch if this one is not, but this is where this is bulbous right now, so is that going to make it more of a knuckle later on? We're going to go ahead and cut this branch off right here in favor of the smaller branch, and we're just going to leave this one basically alone. We're going to cut off this guy right here, and we'll just, we're just going to leave that for right now. So then we have the top of this tree. Now there's no taper right here. We've got the trunk down here, a little bit of a bulge right here that we might have to clean up a little bit more. I can maybe clean up that side a little bit more too, especially since it's kind of the back. And then we have this tree up here. We don't know where the new leader is going to be, and we don't know. This is pretty boring right here, this stick straight section. So I don't know what this tree will become. This could become the tree in the future. We cut it all back to right here. This could become the tree, and we cut this all flush here. And then we've got all these branches up here. So I'm not sure what to do. I don't like that one. This is a possibility. There's this nice branch back here. I like that better. And if we tilt it, let's go ahead and cut all this off right now today. There we go. This can be a nice cutting. We'll keep that. Now let's clean up this cutting. So this is a big one. Might take a little while to heal. This branch might not survive. We'll leave it there and just see if it does. And if it does not, it's got plenty of nutrients coming up from the back side. That's a pretty aggressive cut. It is the front of the tree, but this could become our new leader. So we'll go ahead and we'll just cut this shorter. And this back here, we're going to cut this side off over here. And we'll just leave that top for right now to see where it's going to grow. So that's all I'm going to leave on this tree. So we got rid of some of the height. And it's still a little bit kind of boring right in here, but if this thickens up and it becomes a nice branch, we get some back budding or something, we can see later on. Also, if I were to turn this tree back around, we don't see any of the scar, and that side of the tree now doesn't look too bad either. Now, the root structure and the way it leans isn't as attractive that way, perhaps, but actually not too terribly bad. Sitting in a pot like this, what's going to be the future of this tree? This guy right here or one of these up here? Well, it's definitely going to go that direction. I definitely see that as a possibility. Now, this is super thick over here already. But I think to make that successful, all of this has to come off. So we cut that off, and we cut that off. So now we have a tree that we lost this whole side here. And now what can become the tree? Do we keep this branch? Do we keep this branch back here? This was more fun over here. And maybe this one with this wound won't last as long. We could have some dieback. So let's just keep gnarling off at this. We'll put some cut paste on this inside the plant room. And we're just gonna, see how this responds to this massive of work right here. But when it's slanted like that, we should be pretty good in the future when that heals. We can make these smaller up here to kind of see the tree a little bit better. These are all too big. I think this one's going to come off right here. I don't like that one, and it's not in good shape. We're going to cut this one shorter. So this one unfortunately splits this way. We have a tree that's going up this way, and these two are this way when we should have it more this way. But again, in time and possibly some new back budding on these branches, we could have one of these do some fine things, and we can, just even be pressing it this way a little bit. We could guy wire that or something. We can twist it a little bit more so that's more of the front. We still have 1, 2, 3 to compete with. This right here has more of the movement here, and then it has this branch up here. The back one back there. This one could be coming down more over here. This one could go completely someday. But that This right here is still going to create kind of a bulge right here, so we have to consider if we're going to cut one of these off. This was the healthier of the branches, mind you, and this one seemed a little bit more in rough shape. Part of me says to leave them both and see if they grow back. Part of me says cut one of them off. If this is the new leader, I wouldn't tilt the tree quite as much, maybe. Because then we have 1, 2, 3 on that side. If I cut that other one off, this one's just in much better shape than this one. But that has some nice movement this way, then it comes back already this way, so I kind of like that. This one's kind of in the crotch or crack of these two main tree in there, so that's kind of a weird branch there. I think I'm going to take the risk, everybody. There we go. I'll use this one as a cutting. Well, I'm not sure if that was the right move or not. This branch might come off as a result down the road, but let's just leave these 3 branches left. We'll let it grow back and see what happens. Cover this big wound up, cover these wounds in the plant room with some cut paste. So let's get some soil in here, and then we will put these to bed. The sun comes out once again, warms up the greenhouse, hits that 45-degree range, and the fan kicks on again. So here we go. Here's one of the trees. We got that big old chop. We really changed this tree out. We've got a nice nabari at the bottom there. It looks pretty nice and flaring. We're hoping we get more roots to grow. We'll put this in the plant room, patch this up, and we'll see what we keep. We've got kind of an odd level of branches here, all on one side and kind of bizarre, but we're going to see and make sure we got all kinds of bleeding up here, which is good. Shows that there's life in the tree, all the sap here. And we'll get this first one in its home. Here's tree number 2. This one from this side looks pretty decent. We don't see any of the scars, but as I go ahead and flip it around, you'll see where we chopped this thing up pretty heavily. And so these 2 aren't too bad. That one's pretty severe. We'll see if this survives, but we got a nice section of the tree up there. Again, a decent flare at the bottom. We cut off a lot of those roots, a lot of the big bulbous roots. And so we are in good shape. This doesn't look too terrible. We got a little bit of a bulging here that we can maybe clean up a little bit, but we're going to let this thing grow in the plant room and kind of take hold before we do any more cutting on this one. So this one looks like it's going to be just a more of a shape of a decent tree a little quicker. But there we have it, tree number 1 and tree number 2. All cut up and ready to go back in the plant room as the sun comes out on a warm winter day. Before I end my show today, I'm starting something new this year that I've been thinking about for a while, for the last couple of years, and I've finally found the right way to explain it, talk about it, and it's kind of going to be like, anybody remember Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy? Was that what it was on Saturday Night Live? Some Deep Thoughts? Some Saturday Night Live humor there. Okay, I'm not going to be doing Deep Thoughts from Jack Handy, but some of this might get a little bit deep for some of you. But I'm going to have a new segment on my show appear from time to time, and it's going to be about something called Shinrin Yoku. So my friend William, who's given me some trees recently to work on and care for with him, he and I were talking about this, and it's come up a couple times in discussion. And Shinrin Yoku, for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a Japanese phrase that means forest bathing. And so I've been doing a lot of reading over the last couple of years and about the power of nature and healing. And these trees, my bonsai life is a super great therapy for me. And I just love letting the world escape and just working on my trees. We also can get a lot of healing from just being outside. And I'm a teacher, for those of you that don't know, by day, and a lot of the kids that I work with don't get outside very much. And if I were to have anything I'd love to leave as a legacy for my students is to get outside more. And it's so beneficial for us. I have a couple of books to brag about, not that I've written them, but just that I just love and I'd love to share with all of you. Now, one of them I don't have with me because I can't find it in my house, but I think I might have donated it to somebody else, my son maybe, Toby. But it's called Finding the Mother Tree. And it's a fabulous read about the power of forest. Now, you all know that I do a lot of forest and bonsai, and part of that is my love of nature and love of forest. And when you go into a forest, there's going to be one big mother tree, and all the other trees will never get as big as that tree because it's just there, and they're all supporting each other like a big old family, and that mother tree is the queen of the forest, right? And all of these trees underground, underneath, with all the mycorrhiza and all the fungi and all the, everything's talking to each other, and they all support each other with the chemicals they release, with your Hinoki cypresses. There's so much research on this, but it's absolutely phenomenally interesting to me. I love how I feel when I'm in nature, and I hope you get a chance to get outside. Check out that book. The other two are these guys right here. So one of them is The Nature Fix. Fabulous book. So this is Florence Williams, and you can see all my little yellow tabs in there, and it talks about the benefits of nature. I want to share some of the tidbits and the stuff that they found about how nature can help heal us, if you don't already know that. So throughout the course of the year, my new segment will be to share maybe a quote of the day or the episode, and then we're going to do some nature walking together. They have proven, and we'll get to those stats later on, that even if you watch nature, or if you can go to a park in the city, you're going to be so much better off with your health. And so the last book I'm talking about is Forest Bathing from Dr. King Lee. So forest bathing is Shinrin-yoku. So this is a Japanese way of life, a Japanese way of health and healing. It's not taking a bath in the woods, everybody. It's going out in the woods. And you don't need to be a huge mega hiker. This is just walking in the woods, and even if you just sit down and then sit there for 15, 20 minutes and just soak it all in and take a break and walk in nature. So it's called Shinrin-yoku. It's called forest bathing. And with some of the episodes that I share with you this new season, season number 6, I want to share a little slice of my Shinrin-yoku. It is the first official day, full day of winter, so my first Shinrin-yoku goes back to the cabin trip last year with Toby, and a little bit of footage of us walking around for a little forest bathing, cabin style, Shinrin-yoku. Take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll see you all in the next one.